waiting a long time for this. We've got Reinforce in the house. They've been going for 10 years. One of the main players, if not the main player, on the drum bass scene as far as labels go. And they've released some excellent music over the years. Of course, 4 Hero, Tech 9, Goldie, J Magic. A host of artists have recorded for Reinforced over the years. And they're here. Finally, I've been trying to set this up for a little while. Mark, Ian and Gus are here. Really good to see you guys.
Nice to see you as well, fam.
Yep. Yeah, good to see you.
Long time.
So where's Digo?
Digo's out in Brazil at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, what's he doing out here?
He's actually doing a lecture and some kind of seminar on drum and bass out in Sao Paulo.
Oh, right, really, yeah?
Yeah, he's out there with one of the new artists on the label, Alpha Omega.
So how did you guys hook up?
We met in college, 1986, and we were studying electrical engineering. Basically, one of our friends said he could build a radio transmitter. He did, and we started a radio station. That's how we really got going, really, as an organisation.
And what station? What was the station called?
That was Strong Island Radio.
Right.
Yeah, and that was when out of North London between like 87 and 89.
That was playing weird groove.
Playing across
really
the
early hip hop and stuff like that. Yeah,
Acid days. That was Tony W. Remember Tony?
Right.
He used to be on there.
Wicked. How long did that go for? 2 years?
2 years, 87, 89. Yeah. Too many competitors coming stealing their transmitters.
Yeah, I know that.
No, it wasn't just the DTI. We knew it was, a few of them.
How did the idea for the label then get set up?
Well, the name for the label, Reinforced, came from me because I was involved in a hip hop group between like 80s, well, same time the radio station was running, 87 to 89, and they used to call me Reinforced Gus because my bass line was supposedly reinforced. I used to program in the hip hop beats, and that name was given to me by Team Westwood, believe it or not. It was just before you.
Right, yeah.
It was one day on the way to the studio, someone slammed the door at me and it bounced off me and he called me Reinforced Gus. Your beats are reinforced, you're reinforced.
Wicked.
And there it is.
And the name stuck.
Yeah.
The best names always happen by some accident, you know.
Yeah.
But so how did Mark and Ian and Digo get involved after that, or was they involved from the very start?
From the beginning, like Mark and we used to just jam together. Mark used to bring drum machines and all kind of things into college, and we used to just jam in a common room. That's how the radio station kicked off. We used to start making our own jingles, and then we just all started working well together as a production unit. So even before the label came along, we was just doing little experimental things, having no joy releasing them. Mark just one day said, just start a label.
Right. So how did you get involved? How did the jungle, the early jungle sound, how did you get involved in that? That's a deep question.
That's kind of a mad one actually, because the sound was not something was looking for. We was young in music. We all loved music. I suppose most of our earliest roots, like them days, hip hop was really strong. You know what I mean? And
sure.
With the kind of breaks elements, we was really into the breaks. You know what I mean? And it's like we was really kind of messing around with beats. England as a place, you know what I mean, for music, you know what I mean, but experiences of music, you know what I mean. We had a lot, especially around in the early 80s, you know what I mean. There was a lot of like inspirational music about them. So I just think we were just drawing on all our influences, and we was just jamming really, and it's like you're just messing around and vibing until you find like a sound that is there,
I'm feeling that, especially when we all started out in the thing called jungle. We all kind of came from a background where in the 80s we was influenced by reggae, by funk, by soul, and then in the mid 80s the hip hop.
The
hip hop phenomenon came up. EPMD,
Planet Rock. That was just like
even before that. And I know so much people was feeling it. And to say, how did you get involved with jungle, especially at the early age, it just kind of happened, didn't it? Really, without even thinking about it, being into the breaks and stuff. Just kind of.
And the Chicago, Detroit house as well. That was
for real. Now I know that, especially with the 4 Hero stuff, there's always been an affinity to techno guys. There's always been this kind of disrespect, and Carl Craig, you've done stuff. Was the early stuff as influential?
It was influential to us without us even realising, because at the time there was no labels on music, so we were hearing this stuff from America, and we had no idea it was techno or house. It was just music that we was into. It's only like years down the line you think, hang on, this is all coming from Detroit. After a couple of years of making music, met up with Kevin Sanderson, about 92.
and he brought us out to Detroit where we met Mike, Mad Mike, Underground Resistance, and a lot of the guys out there. And from there on, we just had this kind of association and a kind of friendship, which has kind of lasted up till today. You know, we've got a lot of respect for them guys out there.
They were kind of doing stuff in 88, 89. Now you listen to that music and it's sounding better than ever. It really is sounding better than ever. But anyway, we're going back to the Four Hero thing. What moment did you think reinforced, you know what, we've kind of arrived, we've kind of got there, we've got a hit under our belt? What moment was that for you? Was that Mr. Kirk's Nightmare?
I'd say so. And I think it was a kind of a mad one, you know what I mean, because we had put out a record before that, put our money together, pressed up the record, and we were just going around the shops just getting rid of them, you know, and that's where I met you. Right. And you know, so it was just one of those things, and I think what was special about them times as well, what had a real big help to the scene was the pirate radio stations, because I think without that the scene wouldn't have been what it was. We just put this track out and people were just going crazy for it, you know what I mean? And like radio stations, it was like the request that was coming in from Mr. Kirk was just unbelievable. We put the track out there, from there it took off. We couldn't just press enough of them really to meet the demand. The first run we'd done was about 2,000 we'd done, and that was basically selling on our own backs. The demand grew so big that, you know, we had to bring it to a distribution company.
Whose idea was behind it? Mr. Kirk's Nightmare was that?
Look to Mark over there.
it was one of them tunes that you listened to at the time and you thought, wow, this is deep, you know. This is a deep tune. What was the idea behind that? Was it to terrify people, or was it just kind of like something that was happening at the time and you just thought you'd
I'll tell you, to be honest, it was more of an accident for that tune. At the time we had a keyboard where we went through every sound in the keyboard and tried to get every sound in the record and tried to put every break that we had in our sampler in there, sort of thing. The speech element, the Mr. Kirk's Nightmare speech element that came after, Gus found that one night and stuck that in there, and in the morning we heard it and it was like shocking, you know.
No, take that out. It's too bad.
Yeah. This is our first reaction was like, no, we've got to take that out. People ain't going to have that. And it's like, in the end we said, yeah, okay, we'll leave it. We're only going to sell, you know, we're only going to sell 100 copies, you know, who cares? Yeah.
Come down to the station house. Come down to the station house. Come down to the station house. Your son is dead.
As I said, the best things always happen by accident, totally. Right, listen, we're going to go and play one of your early classics, Rufige Crew. We're going to speak a little bit more about this afterwards. We're going to speak about the link with Goldie and the movement of the label. Was this your first Goldie release? Was it Chris Biscuit?
Chris Biscuit was the first one, yeah.
This was the second?
Yeah, this was the second one. This is the one that took us really, you know, it just really knocked us all back and realised that there was something special with Goldie in his productions, you know. Right,
we're going to talk about that much more after this. The reinforced crew in the house, Ian, Gus and Mark, and we're going to go back in time. This is Goldie.
My friend, he wants to see you tonight. Alright, let's see tonight. He just forgot who started the fight. Alright, who started the fight. Now all you can do is turn away. He says sorry, whatever the price he's willing to pay. And sacrifice.
Rufige.
Right, that was the Rufige crew. Goldie, of course, and Menace from back in the day. That track's got some serious memories for me. We'll talk to the guys in a bit. They're here all the way through the show. Reinforced, of course. Right, we're going to get deep. Remember, we've got the top 10 rollers coming up soon. Edited, slightly edited version. We've also got an edited gig guide. We've got answers to competitions and stuff like that as well. So, keep it locked. This is deep. This is deep. Time to get trancey. It's Fabio, it's Radio 1, it's Friday night, Saturday morning. You better believe it, baby.
soundtrack to the weekend. Fabio Groove Ride exclusively on Radio 1.
guys had real close links with Goldie. How did you meet up with Goldie?
That was a mad one. And I think we was at the time. I think we was doing a PA in Astoria, if I can remember right. I think it was remember Fantasy.
Yeah. I was there. I think I was playing on a Thursday night. Yeah. I remember that.
And we just saw this golden boy jumping up. he just looked a bit more lively than everybody else. You know what I mean?
He jumping higher.
Making much more noise than everybody else. You know what I mean? And he saw us. He just says, "We're involved, mate." You know what I mean? And it's like from that we just hooked up. You know, he was involved. He's bang involved what we were about and everything. And you know, from that we just hooked up, and he like into making music. And I mean, and he just wanted to do something with us.
I remember the first time I spoke to Goldie, because Gus introduced me to him, and he said to me that he had his palm read maybe a couple of weeks before. The woman said to him his hand's going to make him a lot of money, and this time he was doing graffiti, so you assumed there was going to be some artwork was going to explode. Right. He had no idea it was going to be to do with production, but you know, that's just a little story there.
Yeah, because Goldie, the idea of production did he always want to be a producer?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
I mean, remember he came to us. I mean, he wanted to do the artwork for the,
that's right.
Remember the label and all the rest of it.
Right.
So he designed the art that everyone sees.
The art that you see all the time, that's Goldie's design.
Right.
Yeah.
And then later on, he came with some music today.
I've got to admit, the first time I met Goldie, you just instantly thought that he's something else. He's going to go really, really far. You know, he's a star in the making. Even if he weren't making music, it would be something else. He's got this personality which just shines. He got that on record. Who engineered the stuff for Goldie in the early days?
In the very early days, it was Marcus Darkus.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, and he's working with DJ Freebase I think it was for the first two releases. Myself and Digo started working with him.
Okay.
On the things like Angel, a lot of the stuff that was on the first album, his first album. The Enforcer tracks, things like that. I mean, we just like every day would come in and do something.
Right.
You know, so it's like through all that period of after meeting him around about, was it 93 or something, right up to
92 actually.
Yeah, 92, right up to about 96. We were just like doing things, you know, just making sure we're being productive. Collaborations on all different Enforcers records. There was the Internal Affairs sort of EPs like that, and then there was the synthetic projects with Diane Charlemagne, and
it was generally the White Coat sessions there, remember?
Yeah, there was a lot of White Coat. A lot of what we called White Coat sessions, where we actually went into the studio just to create sounds, and we'll spend like 5 hours just creating one sound.
I tell you something. I tell you that was a real special time for drum and bass, because you also had Nookie, who at the time was a huge hit in the clubs, and you know, a lot of these more influential tracks came through Reinforced as well. We can't forget about guys like Nookie.
No, definitely.
And plus, you know, the thing about it, I remember speaking to Goldie at the time, and it was a lot of experimentation there. I mean, you guys were one of the first people, guys to time stretch.
That's right, yeah.
You know, there was really speeded up vocals before that, and I remember Goldie coming up to me and saying, "Listen, you know, we've kind of cracked it, man. It was like cracking the atom, but we found this thing, and it's called time stretch." And he was trying to explain it for hours, and I was like, "What were you talking about?" He was talking about megahertz and frequencies,
parameters.
Apparently, stuff. He just totally lost me, man. But that was a special time, and I think Internal Affairs was one of the great EPs of the time, because I think for experiment and sounds,
it was putting all that technology together on one record. That's what it was about on that one, on the Internal Affairs thing. All that White Coat sessions was trying to put them all together, and that's and ended up with the Internal Affairs thing.
Yeah. And there was only one Internal Affairs ever,
wasn't there? Yeah, that's right.
And I think we had a mix on one of the Enforcer series, I think.
Yeah, Enforcer's 3, the blue.
Oh, really?
One. Yeah.
Because I remember as well, Ian played a major, but I always used to see Ian running around, and he's like, "Fab, listen, man." He used to just give me all the info all the time when it was happening. And there's a new Internal Affairs, and man, the guys are in the studio, they're in the lab, they're creating some stuff. It was exciting for you as well, Ian.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, do you remember the first time when I met you?
Don't put me on the
Come on.
Was it outside Black Market or something?
Yeah, it was Black Market.
Yeah.
And we had the EP. When I put it on in the shop. I think it was like, remember Special Requests?
Yeah.
It's like, I saw Fab and he said, "Dear mate, this forward that my way." Yeah.
But I think, the Reinforce was tight because he was doing the groundwork, Gus was doing all the kind of like real management, and the guys was in the studio with the white labs, with the white coats on, so it was a superb little kind of thing you had going there, man. But things are still going, and of course the Nookie had some killer tracks coming out on the label.
Nookie was the longest standing artist on the label, and every release was just,
slamming.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Slamming. Anyway, listen, we're going to go back to Internal Affairs now because I think this is one of the great EPs of all time. My favourite track from the EP is actually Hands to Heaven, because that track is just so deep. But we're here with the Reinforce crew, glad to have them here. Mark, Ian and Gus from Reinforce. We're going to move on with this a little bit afterwards. This is Internal Affairs, Hands to Heaven. Internal Affairs, an excellent Hands to Heaven from a superb EP. And I think what's so legendary about that is that it was a bit of a one-off as well. Was it meant to be a one-off, or did you mean it as a long-term thing, or it was just a kind of little one-shot thing, this is...
Well, the EP was like a one-off. It was a one-off EP, but the sound, what we call the internal sound, was something that I still feel is in the music now. And that was the whole idea. The experiments was actually, we was trying to find a sound what drum and bass should be defined as, and and I think we found it then, and it's lasted up till now. You know, you can still hear it now.
One of the things about Internal Affairs, I think it moved drum and bass from being this kind of inner city kind of raw music to being so musical. I mean, I'm not being funny. I'm always a very musical person, but that was one of the first EPs when I just thought, drum and bass has got unlimited horizons now. You know, you could see the future in that EP. Did you guys feel that way? When you finished it, did you feel like this is something special and it's gonna last for years?
Yeah, I think definitely, because between all of us sort of, you know, that was making it at the time, that's definitely like in our like favourite of all time for productions. It's something that's close to us. There's a lot that goes behind that record, you know, a lot behind the scenes in that record where, you know, we'd actually be phoning people from the studio and playing them bits, and you know, getting an impression like we'd play Kemi and Storm bits down the phone, and get an idea of like, you know, you know, were we going on the right direction? You know, and we took a lot of stick for that as well, because a lot of people said that it was too
clean,
soft and too clean.
Yeah. I remember that. And it was so different. I remember playing Hands to Heaven. People were just looking at me in disbelief. It's like I weren't playing. It's like I was playing a soul tune. You know what I mean? They just didn't get that tune at all. And another EP that you had out around that time, that to me it was a one-off, Primary
Source.
Wow. Yeah.
You also done Partners Inc. Also 4Hero, and you've got a lot of aliases, like, you know, this the Tech 9 stuff, Tom and Jerry, which, you know, let's not forget that those were blazing EPs, man. Also Jacob's Optical Stairway, Tech 9, 4Hero. What's the idea? Is that just kind of spreading your wings kind of thing?
Yeah, I think more or less. I think we didn't see them as artist names. We saw them as like project names. So this is why we had so many, because it was like this project was going to be the Tom and Jerry project. You know, followed up, released, and until it ended up being like maybe 10 or 12 releases, and ended up being a label.
So was Tom and Jerry more kind of aimed at the dance floor? 4Hero was more kind of like, thinking men's tunes, and Tech 9 was, you know, kind of like a roughneck kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then Jacob's Optical Stairway is really, really deep stuff.
Yeah.
Was that meant to?
That's it, yeah, you summed it up there. That's basically what it was. Yeah. Because
you know, that Tom and Jerry stuff, man, at the time, man, blazing. Why did you stop doing them?
You know, I'll tell you. That's kind of like a little political one, because that was like the kind of like when the major labels came into the whole thing, and basically Tom and Jerry stopped because of the major record labels signed Tom and Jerry, and they found out later that they couldn't use Tom and Jerry the name because it was would have been legal problems and stuff. And to be honest, it kind of squashed the whole thing, which is our mistake for going through the whole, you know, major record thing. You know, I mean, on the 4Hero side, we're talking loud, it's worked out well, but with that one, that should have been underground and should have stayed there. You know?
Ian, do you feel that the record companies, the majors, do you think it had an effect?
I think it had a huge effect. If you look about where they started to creep in and how things have kind of gone, I think I would say they've had a huge effect on what's happening. I think especially now, I suppose it's a funny one, because like in music you find it always kind of happens, you know what I mean? Things start off underground and then it gets to a stage where it's like kind of not necessarily outgrowing a scene, but where it's becoming more popular. Record companies are kind of keeping their ears to the ground and saying, yeah, you know something, we can make something work here, you understand me? The first person major signing to go was Goldie. It's funny you should say this as we are on Radio 1, but I can remember, this might be a bit political here, you know what I mean? But I can remember back in the day certain statements from Radio 1 DJs, top DJs, saying that drum and bass music is not going nowhere, and you know, it's just going to be a fad. Lo and behold, London Records signed Goldie.
Yeah.
So it was a funny one, you know what I mean? But I think they took a lot of the major players out of the kind of scene, drew them in contracts, and I think while everybody was in there kind of making their albums, it kind of left a lot of influential players kind of out the scene.
Tied up,
tied up.
In contract.
Yeah, and you know, I think the music kind of got a bit lost for me, you know, like people didn't know who to draw off, you know what I mean? I think
coming back, you know, on the things, I remember Angel and stuff like that, and when you guys were bringing it to radio stations and getting totally knocked back, I remember that, and I remember seeing Goldie, and he was almost in tears, and saying, you know, people hated his music, and you know, he's brought it to places and they kind of laughed at him, and you know, you've gone out with him and tried to kind of like plug this because you just thought this track was amazing. And you know, you guys got laughed at.
You're listening to Bobby Friction and Nihal on Radio 1 and the Asian Network.